You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper. Remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I gotta tell you something, people. This past weekend was Halloween, and I went as Donald Trump. And I bought some makeup and a wig, and I wore my suit. And what's funny is my landlord is a huge Trump fan, and his wife can't stand Trump. And I ran into her, and I thought she ran away from me. She was like, "Oh my God, my husband's gonna die if he saw you." So I didn't see him, which would have been good, but it was good, a costume. People liked it. I didn't get hit. Everything was good. The election's next week. I can't wait for it to be over because I can't watch this stuff anymore. And that's about it. Anyway, we have a great show today. I'm up early, people. I'm up at 7:15 LA time, 7:15 a.m. because my guest is living out there in Mass, and as I say Mass, like my cousins from Grafton say, Mass. My guest is Gary Schreier. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing good, man.
Digging
your intro monologue.
Oh, that's good. I was sitting there, so funny. Now, did you go out for Halloween, or what did you do for Halloween?
No, I kept the lights shut. No one even saw my house.
It's so funny. Like my neighborhood in Burbank is a nice neighborhood, and you're around my age, so we remember trick or treating. Like trick or treating, this was like the day that you would score tons of candy. And I live in mostly there's all apartment buildings on my street, and yet no kids trick or treat. And I'm thinking it would have been pay dirt when I was a kid.
Oh, absolutely. What I remember is how long did you? When did you stop?
Oh my God!
Stop. How old were you?
I think 13. I was old. I mean, I believed in the Easter Bunny until I was like 14. I was like this kid all about fantasy and just loving the unexpected. So I think I trick or treated for a long time.
Yeah, I think I stopped once. I think it was in junior high. We were junior high football, and we just went. I think we practiced on Halloween, and then we took our gym bags and we went all to these houses, and all the families were saying, "You're too old. You ain't getting any candy." We were in our football uniforms.
Isn't that crazy? The people. It's funny because back then you could turn away people. Now, as I said, I bought candy. And my girlfriend moved out here 3 years ago, and I said, listen, she goes, we gotta buy all this candy for Halloween. And I said, Joanne, here's the bottom line. No kids come by. She's like, yeah, you're lying. I go, no, because she lived in New Jersey, and I grew up in New Jersey, and kids were out, we went out at New Jersey. And man, she sat there by the door, like expecting something, and I said, I'm telling you, no kids are coming by, and not one.
Yeah.
Did any kids knock on your door?
No, they used to, and I mean, a few years ago, but I got a long driveway, so they don't even see my house.
Now, you said you played football. Now, I heard you were a really good basketball player when you were younger, too.
Well, you must have heard it from me, because no.
No, it's on your Wikipedia. It says you were a really good basketball player.
Yeah, I wrote that. No, just off tour, I enjoy playing hoops. Keeps me in shape for touring. But that's I was too small to play. I was too small to play football. As you grew up, I mean, you grew up and everyone was the same size. But then by high school, you had the bigger kids playing those sports. So I kept it to street ball. Now I still play.
Now when
not football, I play hoops.
Okay, well, yeah, because football, that's a funny thing. It's like, at any age you can play hoops. In football, you can't sit there and you don't see like 50-year-old guys playing football on the street, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you don't see a pickup game.
Exactly. So now, when did you get interested in music, and who were some of your influences?
Yeah, early music was always around in the house, and at the time. East Coast, Massachusetts, WRKO, you get exposed to everything. I came of age late 60s, so I heard the Beatles and that stuff, but it was more pop radio. And then I think I was 10 or 11, junior high school. It was Alice Cooper. I discovered Alice Cooper, and that was, then the downward spiral began. It was just rock and roll from then on. Then it's discovering Aerosmith and Queen and all those bands, The Who. But Alice Cooper was my first kind of rock and roll record. Before that, it was, pop radio and everything from singer-songwriter stuff. But music was always around. Even Sinatra was around, My mother was a big Neil Diamond fan, but I charted my own course with Alice. And the great thing is I got to tell him that. I met him over the years.
What made you gravitate towards Alice Cooper? What was it about him? His showmanship? Because I saw him open for Motley Crue at the Hollywood Bowl 2 years ago, and he was amazing in concert. Was it the sound, or what made you gravitate towards him and make him, as you said, you got to tell him later in your life, it made a big difference in your life. What gravitated you towards him?
Yeah, I guess it was speaking. you don't realize it at the time, but, you can, in hindsight, you go, he was speaking to our generation. School's out. I'm 18. I was 11 and 12 years old, I remember, on the jukebox listening to, I'm using these words that people don't even know what a jukebox is anymore.
Right.
Tell my age here.
How old are you?
55.
I just turned 53 2 days ago. So yeah, we're the same generation.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with school's out, he's singing to me. I was that kid. I didn't, I wanted summer to begin, and I guess it was his for me. Little did I know I'd become a singer, and back then, I guess it was his performance. It was his outrageousness. He's chopping babies' heads off. He's hanging himself with the guillotine, all that stuff. It was that to me. It attracted me. I don't know what that's saying about my psyche.
Yeah.
It was outrageous, and of course it was my introduction to rock and roll. Of course, I knew, through my parents, Elvis and Sinatra and that stuff. But here's a guy with long hair, and I'm like, you could identify with what he was saying.
So you see him. He changed your life. Now, what course of action do you sit there? How do you know you can sing? Because basically you've been in some big bands, and that takes a certain charisma and a certain voice, as we call it when I used to stand up comedy. We call it chops. When did you find out you had the chops to sing and to lead a band? Because you're going into battle, you're going in front of a crowd. When did you sit there and start developing your singing voice, and how did you find that voice?
Yeah, sure. It's funny. We just got off tour, and you have those battles. I mean, you've done it. At this point, you've done it a million times. But you go in. Before you go on stage, you're fighting your demons. You're tired. You don't think you can do it. Who you're fooling? All those demons are in your head. But then you go out there, and you instinctually do it. How that evolves, I think I could compare it to people who wanted to, the people who discovered Eddie Van Halen, and they knew they wanted to play guitar. They emulate their heroes, a drummer who discovers Bono. For me, it was the singers. I was attracted to the Tylers and the Mercurys and the Daltrys, the Jaggers, and there was something inside me that said, you know what, I couldn't do it at the time, but there was, as a kid, you go, I can do that. I can imitate that. That to me is not far-fetched, and I would say that's what that young guitar player does when they discover, Eddie. They're not at that level yet, but for some reason they think they can do it. That was me, and young garage band coming out of high school, doing covers, Aerosmith. I didn't have a voice. I didn't develop my own voice yet, what I wanted to say yet. So I was emulating my heroes. So I was trying to sound like Tyler or whoever, because that's what people do, whether it's a guitar, vocal, or drums. You're imitating your heroes. Later, when you start writing music, you start writing your own songs, you're out there performing, you start evolving and start developing who you become,
So you sit there, you find your voice. Now, how do you put the band together? I mean, was Extreme your first band, or did you have a few bands before you did it? Because I always talk to musicians who are our age, that it's not like now, like you can put an ad on Craigslist. They always say they had to put an ad on some like guitar player or some whatever, the local paper. How did you what was your first band? Was Extreme your first band, or how did you end up forming Extreme? Where did that come from?
Yeah, Extreme wasn't my first band. Talking out of high school, you meet a kid who's back then, it's not like today where, American Idol is on TV and you have, 9 out of 10 kids want to be pop stars. Back when we growing up, not everybody wanted to be, all my friends, when I joined bands and I wanted to be I wanted to be in a rock band, that wasn't the norm. You'd find that other kid who was playing bass in his bedroom, and you'd find the kids who dug the same bands you were. It was few and far between back then. So then you find that little community. I played with a bunch of, started in my basement with a couple local kids, meeting someone else. I met a guitar player on the street, and that band broke up. And it was like 1979 where I actually met Paul Geary, who was the original drummer of Extreme. And me and him went through a bunch of different bands, different players. And 6 years later, I meet Nuno in a club at an after the club. After show, I'm hanging out with this kid who looks like Joe Perry to me, and we're talking about Queen and our favorite records. And 6 years later, and both our bands were breaking up at the time. So there's no set, whether the stars align. But then it was me, Paul, and Nuno. A year later, Pat joins, and there's the lineup that Pat completes that lineup with Extreme, and we're playing the clubs. At this point, I've been in bands for the last 8 years in Boston, playing clubs, shitty dives, and this lineup, this Extreme lineup, is the one that the magic happens. Me and Nuno start writing. We fill the void for each other as writers, and so, like I said, the stars align, and now we're starting to fill clubs. And so it never happens overnight. The overnight success is never overnight,
So you felt the magic. Did you feel the magic in the writing? Like when was there something when you and Nuno would sit down and write? Did you guys sit there? Did you feel a certain alliance? I can't think of the word. Did you feel like a camaraderie that when you wrote, you knew the shit was good? I mean, because people can write stuff that stinks, but when you sat down with him, was that the missing piece? Did you sit there and go, man, this is what music is all about?
Well, that's where I think we found our voices. I think we did, for us, it was just me. At that time, it was me and him, and we were like, wow, it's a great song. We thought every song was getting better, so we were driven. And, of course, we were on the Boston scene. We're playing clubs. We play once a week, twice a week, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. So now we're a band who's playing a new song every time we're playing out. So, we didn't think we were, we didn't think we were Lennon and McCartney, but we did. We were excited about writing, and it was coming. Most of it was coming easy, because we were just like, if we tripped up on a song, we just move on to the next. And for me, and to this day, it was very difficult to keep up with Nuno. He was so prolific, still is. He was just, a kid. I call him a kid. At that time, he was 18, 19. That's all he did. That's all he did was play his guitar, and that's why he was so good. He was that guy who put his 10,000 hours in, and we'd play a show the next morning. Wake up. He wouldn't eat breakfast. He'd be down in my basement, with the 4-track, writing the next riff.
Wow. So you're playing in Boston clubs, and now at what point do people start recognizing you? What do labels come out? Because I know, I grew up near Philadelphia, and there was the Philadelphia stable of bands, the Hooters, the A's, stuff like that. So people will go to see them. When did you guys start getting recognized? And first of all, before that, how did you come up with the name of the band?
Yeah, the name of the band evolved. I had a band called The Dream before that. Long story short, there was a TV show called The Dream, but we had the copyright. They bought the name. I was outvoted. I didn't want to change the name out of principle, but I was outvoted. We got some money. We made some demos, and that band broke up. But before it broke up, you know, we had a little bit of a following, and The Dream became Extreme. Not spelled X-D-R-E-A-M, but we liked the connotation. And then that lineup kind of lasted another year or something, and Nuno came in, and we just kept the name because there was a little bit of a following back then. And I forgot your other question, your original one.
The original was, when did you guys start getting heat? Like when you're playing the Boston club scene, and you, I mean, I'm sure like anything, you want to go to the major leagues. When did you start getting the heat, and who sought you guys out?
Right. Well, first you gotta, you know, we were lucky enough to be in Boston that had a local scene and an original scene. This was the heyday of the 80s, mid 80s. We had radio stations that actually played original music. It wasn't so formatted and tight and corporate where, you know, and the scene now is, you know, by the time Extreme got out in the late 80s, early 90s, the scene changed. The original scene kind of died, and the cover scene came up. So it was odd by the time we got back, you know. We were, again, I always use the term stars aligned. We were fortunate. The band was talented. We worked hard and all that, but we were in a scene where it encouraged live local music. Where the heat came, we were filling clubs. Paul Geary, great drummer, but he's also our unofficial manager at the time, who kind of was soliciting. You know, he'd go out there. He's the one who booked the shows. He's the one who found the studios and our managers. And he found this down on the South Shore. These managers who had a studio where we did our demos, who had connections to some people in New York, and we started making demos good enough to send out. Got some label interest in L.A. A&M Records. I remember coming out to the Paradise Theater, and we showcased for them. And they came up to the dressing room and said, "We want to make records with you." And that was it. That started our relationship with A&M. We started recording in late '87, our first record. So
now it's your first album was self-titled, I believe. Your second album was, you know, it's just 25th anniversary of that. Did you think your second album was critically acclaimed, and the video, everyone who's over 40 knows that video. What was that like, making the video, and did you think that, you know, the album would be so successful and then people would remember that song? I mean, what was that like for you guys it was your second album. I mean, and you blew up. What is that like as a musician, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny looking in retrospect. You could say, man, Here Comes Pornography, More Than Words, is a hit, and the record now, 25 years later, it's exploded, and we're celebrating it and all that stuff. In real time, we put out Pornography. We were 9 months into that record. We're still playing the clubs. We put out a couple of videos like Decadence Dance and Get the Funk Out. We were actually writing our third record. You know, we did a few club tours, but nothing huge. So we were going in, just 9 months into the record, we're getting ready for our third record. The label still supported us, and they believed in us, and we had success with the first two. now there's a radio station in Philadelphia who starts playing More Than Words. It starts getting numbers. It starts dominoing across the country. We're on a club tour, I think in Europe or the UK or whatever. We come back to make the video. We do a black and white video. That's unique amongst the MTV, power ballad. Even More Than Words, the people call it the power ballad. It wasn't a power ballad. When I think of power ballads, I think of, big harmony vocals and big drums at the end, the slow tempo power ballad. Here's More Than Words. To me, it's the anti-power ballad. It's one guitar and two vocals. It's the Everly Brothers. It's just an acute acoustic ditty. So it was an anomaly at that time. MTV, the videos was fantastic. To the credit of the producers, Jonathan and Val, they did some great videos at that time, and I think the video struck a chord with people. More Than Words became bigger than the band. We followed it up with Wholehearted, which is another acoustic thing, and we just hung on at that point. But we're talking 9 months into a record, we couldn't find a tour. Now we're jumping on the Bon Jovi tour. Now we're jumping on the ZZ Top tour. And it's funny, we rode that wave. And, the good and the bad was, a lot of people thought we were an acoustic act because of the two acoustic-driven songs. But here we are going on these tours, and we're playing our brand of, funky rock and roll, get the funk out and stuff. So, in the end, would we have, me talking to you, would we be celebrating our 25th anniversary of Porno Graffiti if it wasn't for the success of More Than Words? I don't know if we would be. We still feel it's a great record, and it was a great record, but would it have been as popular if More Than Words wasn't on that record?
What is that like from you going, as you said you were playing clubs? What is it like, especially as a lead singer? Because I always compare lead singers to like a quarterback. You're probably a Patriots fan, with Tom Brady going in the field. You are the catalyst. The guitarist can be Nuno, great. Your drummers are great, but the bottom line is everyone associates, the lead singer as the front man. What is it like when you sat there and went from playing clubs in Boston and in Rhode Island to all of a sudden, opening for Bon Jovi and ZZ Top, playing big venues? How do you psychologically get yourself ready for that? Because it's a big difference from 80 people to 800 people to 25,000 people. And what were some of the biggest crowds you played to when you were on tour with these bands?
Yeah, I think the first experience of the big leagues was, I think it was 1989. I think our record just came out. This was before More Than Words, so Aerosmith's coming into town. We're a local Boston band. Minimal success. We have an opportunity to play with Aerosmith in Maine. So that was our first experience of a big stage, and we're used to. We're used to bumping into each other because, the stages are, 5 feet wide. So now, I remember we're walking into the venue and we're going on stage during sound check, and we're seeing some of the Aerosmith lyrics, some of the cheat sheets Tyler had, and I go, okay, I see how he does it. So we're on the stage, and I remember playing that gig. And we weren't ready for it. The how big the stage was, and here we are running around in clubs. It's a different ballgame when you're at Gillette Stadium. So that was our first grasp for the big leagues. But after that, Extreme was lucky. We played clubs then the band got bigger. We played theaters. Then we got enough in Europe to play stadiums with Brian Adams. We got on that tour. So we're playing stadium stages. So the band grew and our performances grew. I think that's why we became good performers. We had this pedigree, we had this growing, we grew into it. We grew into those stages. Freddie Mercury show, by the time that happened, we were playing, not on a daily basis, but we did have experience on a bigger stage. So, but it was like anything, it's a learning curve.
What is the feeling, if you could sum it up in a few words, what is the feeling being a singer, being on stage in front of, thousands of people, and they're all basically eating out of your hand? How would you explain that feeling? I mean, is there any words that could explain what that is like?
The first word that comes to mind is heroin. That's a joke. No. It's a drug. It's nothing like it. It's what keeps you going up there again. Playing those shows. I mean, funny, this band goes into every show like that, though. And we pride ourselves on that. A club stage, we play it like it's an arena. And if anyone ever saw Extreme throughout the years, they would say that because before we go on, it's that, and go, put on your Full Metal Jacket because somebody's going to get hurt up there. So it's a good thing in a way. We still take it seriously, and we do put out. We enjoy it. It hurts more in the morning. You're older. Your body hurts. But this band, Extreme's always been driven by performance. We like making records, but it's like you said, it's like putting on the uniform, like going out to Gillette. That's what we strive to do, So it's a drug for us. It's certainly a drug for me.
Now, how did the whole when you sang at the Freddie Mercury tribute, how did you end up singing with Queen?
I know, how the hell did that happen?
Because that's just so cool. I mean, it's like because we all grew up listening to Queen, and they were different. How did you guys get on the bill, and how did you got to sing with them? That first of all must have been as my mom would say, a feather in your cap. But how did that happen?
Well, it's all downhill from there, because that was the pinnacle. That day was probably the greatest day in Extreme in our collective history. It's funny. More Than Words, the success of that in the 90s, we went over to, we're touring the UK and Europe. At that point, we met some of our heroes. Brian was one of our heroes. So I remember Nuno was asked to do a Guitar Legends thing out in Spain in 1990. That's where he met Brian, and I think they only had one singer out there, Paul Rogers, and Nuno, I guess those guys were looking for singers, and Nuno goes, I got a singer, I got a singer who can, who do some Queen, and I got the call, so I'm out there, me and Nuno are out there, and we got to meet Brian, we got to be friends, Extreme's touring, we invite him on stage. We're these kids, worshiping at the altar of Queen. So at that point, we were friends with Brian, and we went out to dinner. And of course, the tragedy with Freddie, when that happened, we were out there, and Brian just says, next year we're going to have the biggest show to celebrate Freddie's life, and we want you to be a part of it. And we were like, at that point, it was just a concept. And we're like, of course. And then a few months later, they're putting the show together. And you know, the bands at the time, the Def Leppard, Extreme, Guns N' Roses, you know, we hit at the right time. We had success. So we were one of the names that was brought up. And of course, we were friends with the Queen guys. So we got the invitation. And then when we got there, Brian goes, you want to do a song with the band? I'm looking at him like, well, let me check my schedule. Of course. So it's funny, he asked me to do, it was either Hammer to Fall or One Vision. And it ended up being Hammer to Fall, which is great. Love both the songs. So, yeah, that was still, it was still, when I think of it, it's pretty much a highlight for sure. And was I nervous? Of course I was.
Oh, yeah,
I was singing with my favorite. I was singing with my favorite band.
Yeah, you're singing with Queen. I mean, it's not like, you know, singing with, it's Queen. They're huge. I mean, and it's funny because, you know, and you're singing a song that a bigger than life legend sang. So it must have been you must have been nervous, but you pulled it off.
Oh, thanks. Thank God, because if I didn't, then it would have been an embarrassment in front of the biggest audience. You know, but yeah, you know, Extreme, but you know, when we met Brian, and he knew it. I mean, if you listen to Extreme, you know, Queen's all over it. Our influences, you know, one of our biggest influences, Queen, harmonies, and even when we put our medley together, we knew exactly what we were going to do when we were asked. You know, we were supposed to do our songs, and it wasn't even a thought. We thought a Live Aid. You know, we pulled out all the CDs, we put together the medley, and we knew exactly what we were going to do. So, and we were just students. We were fans, but you know, we were students of the history of Queen. So, you know, it was a no-brainer for us. You know.
Now, when the video of More Than Words was out, how did that change your life? Because, you know, I remember when MTV first aired. I lived right near Philadelphia in New Jersey. There was a cable station. I remember, you know, Video Killed the Radio Star. Years later, I was drinking beers with Jeff Downs, and I couldn't believe that I was sitting there with the guy who was in the first video. Videos, everyone watched them. We waited for videos. We waited for video premieres.
Sure.
How did that change your life? And did people start recognizing you because of the video? Because everybody watched MTV.
Well, yeah, MTV was, you know, that was it. That was the town square. That was, everyone went there. And so if you were fortunate enough to have a video in rotation, let alone, you know, major rotation like More Than Words, we were in Europe. I think it went to number one when we were in Europe, and we were playing clubs and some theaters. But when we came home, you know, we were away from it when it exploded in that summer. When we came home, it's funny, we got on the David Lee Roth Cinderella tour, and usually when you're the third band on the tour, there's a handful of people come to a shed and see you. But we were the first band out of three, and these sheds were filled up, and we were, you know, because of the success of More Than Words, I think we got our platinum in Boston. We were presented our platinum record in Boston that summer in '91. But I think it's funny. Some of the first recollections is, you know, you're in McDonald's and someone has a double take and they're looking at you and they recognize you and say, "What are you doing here? You know, what are you doing here? You're famous. You're on MTV. Well, you're eating a hamburger. Why else would I be here?"
Right.
So it's funny. That was the beginning of, you know, the band getting attention outside of our, you know, local scene. It's funny, I got a Starbucks, I still get the double take. They might not recognize, they might recognize the nose, but they'll go, "You look like someone I know." I got a twin brother. Maybe you met him.
So you guys are a popularity, and now, like a lot of the bands back then, the grunge, changed everything. What happened with your band, and did you feel that your popularity was dwindling, and then what happened, and how did you start to go out on your own?
Yeah, it's funny, the 90s, the early 90s, you got, Pearl Jam and Nirvana blowing up, and it kind of put everything that predated that into a category, whether you call it hair metal or whatever. And so, it just, radio changed, out with the old, in with the new. But with Extreme, it's funny, we were almost insulated from that because we kind of left, we didn't leave America, but we went off to Europe and we put out our third record. And we were playing theaters, we were playing arenas. So, and then we started, we hit South America. So we were playing markets outside of America. So, record sales, of course, went down, and we never sold as many as we sold with Porno Graffiti, and our follow-up record, Three Sides, was considered a disappointment. But for us, it was a better record. And again, we were insulated. We were playing places, so we didn't feel like our popularity was dwindling. But we knew what was happening. We knew what was happening, and we weren't getting the calls, or MTV wasn't paying attention to our videos. That was obvious. But like, for us, our strength was always performance, and I guess to this day, we're still, 2012, first time we played China, first time we played Russia. So for us, we invested in what the band always was, a live performance. So that's what kept us alive. Did it affect us? Would we have loved that? And that MTV would play our later videos. It bothered us at the moment, but again, you can only control the things you have control of. Those are things that we never had control of in the first place. We didn't force them to play more than words. It just happened. And so, and Extremes has always been insulated anyways. We didn't care. We just wrote the things we wrote and played. That's what we did. We're still doing it.
So you guys had this success, and then, as I said, the music scene changed. And then, now, how did you end up with Van Halen? Which, and as a singer, if I sang, I would think, who are two great frontmen? Well, yeah, Freddie Mercury, you got to sing with Queen, and David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And what is that like as, a guy whose band is very successful, but you're walking into a legendary band? How did all that happen?
Yeah, that's funny. How did that happen? Again, the whole scenario was never scripted. It was 95, 96. Extreme puts out their fourth record. Nuno's starting to write some solo stuff, wanted to express himself that way. I remember that summer of 96, it was late 95, 96. Nuno wanted to lead the band, and I wanted to keep the band together, saying, let's take a year off, let's do our Kiss solo records, but keep the band together. But Nuno felt, he wanted to move on, which is great. And during that summer, I remember there was this commercial on MTV where there was a Welcome Back Kotter team, and there was rumors of, rumors of David Lee Roth coming back to Van Halen. I remember Pat calling me up, and we were laughing about the video. Laughing about the commercial of that. I don't know if you remember it, but there was this Welcome Back Kotter theme, and the rumor was Dave was joining the band, and Pat was excited. That was his favorite band, VH, and we were talking about it. I think a week later, my manager, who was managing Van Halen, calls me up and says, "Hey, you want to audition for VH?" I go, "Okay, that's funny. What's going on?" And he goes, "No, I'm serious. I can call and get you an audition." I go, all right. I got nothing doing this week. I'm not doing anything this week. So I remember telling, people around me, the band, going, "I'm going out to LA for the weekend. I'm going to go sing Jump," and I'll have a few war stories. I'll get to meet Eddie and everybody. It'll be a great story, I went out that weekend. It was in the afternoon. Met him at 5150. It's funny, I'd met Michael Anthony years before that. He came out, said hello to me. I go, "Hey, man." He goes, I go, "Hey, man, I'm a little nervous here." He goes, "Don't worry about it. Everybody's cool. Just come in, sing." And Eddie and Alex came out. They shook my hand. I literally had my suitcase in my hand. He goes, "You want to sing?" Eddie goes, "You want to sing?" I go, Yeah. Can I go take a piss? I go to the bathroom. I go into the studio. I look at Michael and I go, "Help me out with the high notes." He goes, "Yeah, I got you. So we do a couple of Dave stuff. I handle that. And then Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. I'm going, all right, this is a bitch. Because the Sammy stuff was the challenge. I loved the Dave stuff, but vocally I knew I could handle the Dave stuff. So I had a good day. I sang about 6 songs. We took a lunch break, and we all got a bunch of burritos, and Eddie came to me and goes, "Hey, man, we want to write a song." We ended up writing the first song on VH3. It was Without You. So we ended up pretty much writing that song that day. And I was there for the weekend. I stayed in his guest house. They were all great. Second day, we're out smoking a cigarette. He's smoking a cigarette, and Eddie says, "Hey, you want to join the band?"
How do you react to that? I mean, like how do you sit there and as a normal human being not piss yourself? Because it's like, wow, hey, you want to join Van Halen? That'd be like me, someone goes, hey, Steve, you want to play running back for the Philadelphia Eagles? No, because I get my ass kicked. But how do you react to that? I mean, how do you keep do you do the complete poker face? And how do you not show your excitement?
I got to tell you, I was stunned. I mean, in retrospect, Eddie's a normal guy. Eddie was a normal guy, and once he got comfortable with you, we hit it off. So when my reaction was, did the other guys know? Did you talk to the other? He goes, no, I haven't talked to anyone yet. He goes, but he had this vibe, he had this feeling. We hit it off. We started writing. I didn't know how to react, and then when the weekend turned into a week, and some of my family, my people calling me, going, "What's going on?" I go, I would call them and go, "I don't know, but I go, I think I'm in the band," and because I couldn't get my head around it.
Right.
I couldn't get my head around it. So, they asked me to be in the band, and it was a work in progress, and we were writing, and it took more than that day. Hey, you joined the band. To me, reality set in and goes, okay, they like me. That's great. Now I gotta earn it. So we started writing. Looking back, I wish I wish I toured with the band before we made the record, because I would have felt a little bit more comfortable. So I think there's some great songs on the record. You know, in retrospect, I think the record fell a little short. And if we toured, I would have felt more comfortable in the band than we would have came back. Hang on a second. I was trying to call me. So, you know, that 3 years in VH was a whirlwind. You know, they treated me great. There was always a part of me that knew it was not going to last.
Why? Why is that? Why did you think that?
In the back, again, you know, when I joined the band, not that there was a back, you know, not that there was like a backlash against me. It was the hope of Dave joining the band. You know, I came right in when they put out a greatest hits. I think Dave sang a couple songs. Sammy was in the band for 12 years or whatever. And, you know, being a Van Halen fan or original Dave fan, you know, you had these fans that have been waiting a decade for their man to come back in the band. And here comes this guy from Extreme who sings more than words. You know, doesn't put me in a good light. So I knew in the back of my head that Dave was coming back. I didn't know he was going to come back. A year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But that was always in the back of my head. But my experience with VH was awesome. The tour was great. Eddie was on fire. It was funny because I'd have meet and greets with these fans, and most of them were, you know, genuine and gracious. But they'd look at me and go, you know what fucking band you're in? You know, you're lucky. You know, I go, yeah. I go, I know. So I'd always be reminded every day. I mean, these people, these fans, you know, you got people who, like what we were talking about at the beginning of the interview, there's musicians that picked up a guitar or picked up a drumstick because of these guys. You know, I knew I was in the presence of legends. All I'd have to do is look around me on stage. I mean, these guys were posters on my wall. You know, so it was a trip. But as far as being in the band, those guys, they treated me great. So it wasn't hard to be in the band. You know.
Now, when you end up leaving the band, where are you mentally for the fact that, you know, you've had huge success with Extreme? You just played with a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band. Where do you go from there in your creative process? I mean, you've hit big milestones. You know, you've been a success. You've had a huge hit. You've played with your own band that was huge, and then a huge band. Where do you go? And then, because you weren't that old. I mean, where mentally are you?
Right. Well, it was around 2001. There was two things I knew of. You know, Extreme was always in the back of my mind. I was still in touch with the Extreme guys. We never fought. I always, you know, watched and listened to Nuno's solo stuff. And, you know, he was him and Pat, when they'd come out to LA, they'd go up to 5150. So, you know, we were friends, so I knew Extreme was in my back pocket. I just didn't know when. And Nuno was still, you know, doing his solo stuff. And so 2001, the one thing I knew, because of what you just said, the one thing I knew I didn't want to do was put together a three-piece rock band. I was in Extreme for 10 plus years. With that success, I joined, you know, arguably the greatest three-piece rock band there is, you know, VH. What am I going to do? Put together a three-piece rock band and what? You know, overshadow that history? That ain't going to happen. So artistically, I put together the Tribe of Judah project, which incorporated some hard rock, but incorporated some industrial and some electronica, and I kind of played with my voice as far as treating it like an instrument rather than just a lead vocal. So it was an experiment. Artistically, it was a great move for me because I could distance myself from that history, and proud of that record. I had lots of things I wanted to say, it's for, it wasn't successful monetarily or anything, but artistically it was, for me, it was what I needed to do to get my head, to clear my head for the dust to settle from, that whirlwind that I was in the late 90s. So that got me, that eventually got me back to Extreme, and in the interim, I have my Mistress band with my brother Mark. It's I am most comfortable with being in a rock band. So that's where I'm at now with Extreme and Hurt Smile.
Now, have you stayed in Boston, the Massachusetts area, the whole time, or did you ever live in LA? Or, I mean, because most rock stars, you don't hear them living in Massachusetts. They usually live out here.
I love that dirty water, the East Coast. I was in when I was in VH, I lived in LA. I don't know, about 3-4 years. But I came back here. It's just comfort, East Coast, family. Keeps me grounded. Pretty private person. But I don't know what keeps me coming back here. It certainly ain't the winters.
I know, God. You guys I was saying, it's funny because I was bi-coastal for 2 years before my girlfriend moved out here, and Philadelphia area didn't get hit, but I remember Boston. You guys keep getting your ass just kicked in the winter.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my God, like there was by December 15th, there was more snow in 1 year in Boston than they've ever had in the whole winter season.
Oh man, I think it was 2 summers ago. I was looking for land in Florida or LA because it was killing me. Snow was killing me.
Now, what do you do these days? I mean, do you constantly write, or where's your creative process now? Are you still? I mean, you've been a good writer through your whole career. You've always penned hits. Do you wake up and write? I mean, what do you do? What does a rock star do, like on an off day?
On an off day, I don't know. It depends on what role you're playing. As a singer or a writer, I end up always being in my head. So there's always a song. There's always a song in my head. But right now, focused on Extreme. We just finished up a Japanese, South Korean tour. We didn't do Porno Graffiti there, but we just finished that up, and focusing on the end of the year is new music. We owe it to the Extreme fans to put out some new music, no excuses. So before we go out again next year, that's the plan, to have new music.
Now, has your songwriting changed over the years?
It changes with the people I write, and over the years, it's funny. But with me and Nuno, we know each other so well. Sometimes it's the riff before the words. Sometimes I'll send him lyrics before the music. And as we've grown, as we've written songs separately as well. So he's a great writer, he's a great lyricist. So it's just going through all the material and finding out and what's best for Extreme. But there's a lot of material that we have, and just got to make sure because records are few and far between. So we put our best shit out there. You know.
Cool. Well, this has been good. I'm glad I got to talk to you. It's funny. I woke up early. I woke up at 6 a.m. I was like, oh my God, he's going to call me. And I got crazy. Now, are you involved on social media a lot? And if so, what is your Twitter, and do you tweet a lot?
I don't tweet a lot. I'm on Twitter. I'm the that's Nuno and Pat. They do that. I probably would have to do it if they didn't do it, but because they do it and they do it better than I can, Nuno's got the Facebook and the Instagram and I don't even think he tweets, but I tweet every once in a while. I think G. Chiron or something like that.
Yeah, it's okay.
And it's few and far between.
But you have a lot of followers, so that's good.
That's good. That's good.
So people follow him. Just follow him. He's not going to tweet a lot, but follow him. Follow G. Chiron. That's CHERONE.
That's not a good.
It's all right though.
For me to say. Yeah, I tweet every day.
He tweets every day.
I tweet every hour.
Gary Chiron tweets every damn day, people. So follow him and he'll tweet you. He'll tweet you personally. No, he won't. I'm lying. And follow me on Twitter. I'm at Cooper Talk. That's at Cooper Talk. Also, don't forget, if you Instagram and Words with Friends, I'm Cooper Talk 1. I put a lot of recipes and pictures up from on Instagram. Remember, I have my health problem, which leads me to my next point. You go to the website, stopthesalt.com. That's my cookbook. It's 120 low sodium recipes for one. Remember, I almost died 5 years ago, and I changed my diet.
Wow.
And low sodium. And these recipes, there's no pictures. So guys, how you get intimidated by a picture in a cookbook? Don't worry. There's no pictures. There's no major ingredients. If you don't have cumin, don't worry. There's no cumin. I use cumin at home, but I didn't put it in recipes for you guys. So you go buy the book. You can go to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. But if you get it at StopTheSalt.com, I will sign it for you and I'll make more money. And the problem is, no one's buying it from that website. Everyone's buying it from damn Amazon, so I'm making no money on it. I've sold like 80 copies, people. That's it. I've sold like 85 copies of this damn cookbook. Anyway, do that. Twitter, as I said, Cooper Talk. Follow me on Twitter. And don't forget my website, www.coopertalk.net. I have 560 plus episodes up there. You can email me, coopertalk.net, and tell me what guests you want to hear. Because, I've strived to get good guests for you guys. Hell, I got Gary Chiron from Extreme. And you know what? And go watch that video, because you have to watch the video. And that's about it. So Gary, I want to thank you for coming on. And I'm going to watch your video now. I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to say, I just interviewed Gary Chiron. And it's good. And so now what are the Patriots going to win the Super Bowl this year?
I think they are. I think they're better than they're better than last year, even though they didn't win it last year. But I think they're in the rankings. I gotta say that. But you know what? Brady's showing why. I know everyone else other than New England hates Brady and the Patriots, but the guy can't be denied.
I know.
The GOAT.
Belichick is the best coach ever. And I say, people, you heard me say that, and I hate the Patriots because they beat my Eagles in the Super Bowl, but Bill Belichick is the best coach ever. And I bet you think that too.
I do think that. I think they're going to change the name to the Belichick Trophy.
See, that's awesome. Anyway, people.
I just want to say, man, I'll check out the book. We should have talked about your diet.
It's about you. I'll talk to you. We'll talk. Anyway, people, go check out Extreme. Go check out Gary. And I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only a sip as my guest. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.